Sir, shall we start the session? Sir?
I am ready, ma'am. So whenever you are ready, we can start.
Okay, sir. A happy noon to one and all gathered here. Welcome back for the second session of the FDP on intellectual property rights. Satish sir, the session is over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me share the PPT. Just a second. All right. Very good afternoon to everyone present here. I hope everyone has had a good lunch, but not that good as if you to become sleepy. All right. All right. So let us begin with the afternoon session. In our morning session, we discussed the basics of intellectual property. We saw the meanings of patent, trademark, geographical indications, designs, and then about traditional knowledge, confidential information, plant varieties, etc. Today's this afternoon session is focused on two aspects which are interlinked, which are interconnected. One is the copyright, which is another very common IP, which is actually to which we are more connected. We as academicians are closer to copyright than any other IP, right? And when we talk about copyright, we also talk about how we sometimes violate copyright and how that can land us into trouble in the context of plagiarism regulations introduced by UGC in the year 2018. How serious they are, what serious repercussions, consequences we may face if we do not follow those particular plagiarism regulations. So, as I said, focus on two things: copyright and the UGC regulations against plagiarism. Before we go to the regulations, let us first understand, for those who may not know, what exactly this copyright is and what all things are included in this right. This, as you may all know, is the symbol of copyright. Now, unlike trademark, which has two distinct symbols, as we spoke in the morning session, one is the TM with the circle for unregistered trademarks, and one is R with a circle for registered trademarks. Unlike that, copyright has only one symbol, that is C and a circle. But the similarity is, just like trademarks, even here you don't have to compulsorily register your work. The moment you write any original work, now there are 6 different kinds which are protected under copyright. We call them work, 6 different works, which we will see in a while. The moment you create any of those works, you automatically get a copyright. You don't have to have a registration for that, right? So registration not compulsory, and the symbol is only one. Where all you, at which all places you see this symbol, right? For example, any social media website, right? Facebook is one common thing. At the bottom of the screen, you can see here copyright and the year mentioned there. Now this image was taken 1 year, 2 years ago, so the year is old. This is a copyright symbol. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean that Facebook owns all the data which is uploaded on the website? The answer is no. The data what we upload on Facebook, whether it is a post or a photo or a video or any link, that does not go to Facebook as in copyright. Copyright is for the software, that is the program code which Facebook has, the unique code which nobody else has, right? So it doesn't own the content which we upload, but it owns the source code, it owns the software behind it. Similarly, take a book, a novel, right? Here at the top you can see copyright 2009 by Dan Brown. Now this is a novel by this very famous author Dan Brown, who has written books like the Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, etc. A very controversial author also. Now, as I said, even in the previous slide, you saw the year, and even here you saw the year. So this year is year of creation. So in this example, when was the book published? 2009. So the copyright is the date of copyright is owned by Dan Brown in the year 2009. So date of creation is written after the copyright symbol. You can also find information about trademarks. So for example, here Doubleday and the DD colophone are registered trademarks of Random House Incorporated. So copyright and trademark symbols details mentioned here. Similarly, a CD. Nowadays, nobody uses CD anymore, right? You have even USB drives, pen drives, what we call. They are also slowly becoming outdated because you have this drive, right? You can store everything on the drive, that is cloud-based storage systems. So you don't have to carry any data with you, whether it is, we had this magnetic floppy disks many years ago. The storage was right around 2 MBs, 2.5 MBs, right? Now a photograph you click is more than that on your smartphone. So again, a CD, here you have copyright symbols. Everywhere you get this. So what exactly is this right? Why is it known as copyright? Because literally, it means a right to copy. Literally, it means right to copy. Okay, so because if I have created, I have written a book. So anybody who owns the copyright on my book, whether it is I or anybody else, that person gets a lot of rights. One of them is right to copy. That is right to duplicate, right to make copies, right to distribution. As I said, there are so many rights involved. And that is why we call them a bundle of rights. Copyright is not a single right. Along with it, there are so many other rights. For example, right of reproduction. Okay, so to reproduce the work. And what will you do after you reproduce? You will distribute it, you will sell it, you will give it on rent. It is second right under this bundle, that is communication to the public, right? So distribution comes, performance. So a singer, a dancer, an actor, they perform. When they perform, they communicate their skill, their art to the public. Display, sell, rent, etc. So reproduction is the first right, communication to the public is second major right, and the third major right is adaptation and translation. So many times we see that books are being adapted into a movie is adapted into a book, vice versa, or a play or a drama is adapted into a movie, so on and so forth. So adaptation including translation. So best-selling books, best-selling novels, they are translated into various languages in the world. So because of these major rights which you get, so all these, so copyright includes all these rights together, bundled into one. And so copyright is a bundle of rights. So as I said, there are 6 kinds of works which are protected under copyright. So let us list them down one by one. First of them is literary works. Literary, as you can guess, something related to literature, right? But for copyright purposes, anything which is written down is literary work. It need not be literature kind of writing. It could be any writing, as simple as a question paper in an examination, including the answers written to those questions. That is also writing, that is a copyrighted work, right? So textbooks, obviously, all the textbooks which we refer, they are copyrighted because they are written, right? Then the timetables, the almanac. Almanac is what Panchang we call, calendar. That is a copyrighted work. Our thesis, dissertation, any article, anything which you write is literary work. Here, now there was a question in our morning session about a song. Who wants the copyright in a song? Now, a song is what? When for our common purposes, a song we attach song to a music, but there are lyrics are separate, and then the music is given to those lyrics. So the lyrics, they are protected under literary works, whereas the music comes under point number 3, musical works. Right? So there are such bifurcations within the copyright itself. Because you write the lyrics, they come under literary works. Coming to the second point, dramatic works. Okay, so dramatic work includes whatever is necessary in a drama. So the scenic arrangement, the set, or the actual, what do you say, the performance of those people, right? Choreography, dance choreography, that comes under dramatic works. I will show you certain images about these things, which will make it clear for you. Right? Then we come to musical works. Musical works is any music given to a particular, not necessarily a song, but any sound which is created is music. Right? Any creation of sound is musical work for copyright purposes. Then artistic works is artistic, as it tells you, it is related to art. So a picture, drawing, a photograph, a sculpture, all these things, they come under artistic works. These 4 are one category, that is, we call them LDMA: literary, dramatic, musical, artistic. So these 4 are one category because they are original works. To get a copyright in these first 4 works, your work must be original. Whereas when you come to point 5 and 6, they are what we call derivative works. Derivative in the sense, they are not original, they are derived from something else. So cinematograph films is a normal audio-visual film, audio-video film. So in any cinema, for example, movie, it is a cinematograph film. Now to make a movie, you require so many things. So your movie, you need a script, you need a story, you need screenplay. If there are songs, you will need lyrics, all those things. So all those things, they come under either literary, dramatic, or musical, artistic work, under original works. And then from these original works, you derive another work, that is cinematograph film. So we call them derivative works, not original in their entirety. Similarly, sound recordings. So under musical work, you create a sound, and when you record that sound on a permanent storage, that becomes sound recording. So in very old days, you had gramophones, right? HMV companies gramophones where there were large discs, and you attach a particular sharp pointed object on it to play the song. Gramophones. So nobody has them anymore. So we have digital storage devices nowadays. So you record the music on some hard permanent storage that becomes sound recording. All right. As I said, dramatic works. Now here is an image. It shows you something about dramatic works. One thing you have to remember here, under copyright, everything must be produced into some material form. For example, choreography is what? It is a dance, right? How will you record the dance on paper? Because unless you record the dance on paper, you won't get copyright over those choreography work. And so, for just to make you understand, I have shown this image where even the choreography can be put down into words on a paper. And once you do that, you get a copyright over it, right? So now this is their technical language. So for example, there are different signs: front sign, head sign, level sign, behind sign, and direction sign. There are different signs. So people who know that language, they can read the steps involved in it. So for top of head, there is a sign for shoulders, waist, knees, and floor. Right? So choreography, dance can be put down into words. Right? And then you get a copyright over it. Similarly, if you come to musical works, these are the notations. Again, those who are expert in music, they will understand these notations, not everybody. Right? So again, for the musical work to get a copyright, you will have to write it down on a piece of paper in this language. That is the basic crux of copyright. In artistic work, as I said, it includes paintings, sculptures, any drawing, including diagrams, maps, charts, plans, engraving, photograph, any work of architectural. So architectural works. Okay, and that is how they have written it. I know it should be work of architecture rather than architectural. That is how Act says, and that is why I've written it as it is. Any other work of artistic craftsmanship. So anything remotely related to art comes under artistic works. All right. Now, as I said, copyright is a bundle of rights. So one work could have multiple rights. Multiple rights in the sense, multiple works together in one work. Let us take one simple example of a movie. Right? Everybody watches movies. So what is a movie? It is a audio visual recording. So it has video as well as audio. Now, to make a movie, you will need many things. For example, story, script, dialogues, song lyrics. These four come under the first work, that is literary work. All right. Then you give music to those songs, or you have a background music score. So that will come under musical works. Choreography, performance will come under dramatic works. Sets, if you have any. Nowadays, movies are shot in a real life locations, but imagine a movie like Bahubali, where a lot of things were computer generated imagery or a set prepared, and kept in Ramoji Film City in Hyderabad. So sets, they come under artistic work. Capturing of the music on the tapes, any tape or any storage device, that is sound recording. And capturing all of those things on a film is a cinematograph film. So all these 6 categories of works, they come under a single movie. And of course, now whether your work is literary or musical or dramatic does not matter much, because ultimately you will have a copyright over it, irrespective of the category in which your work falls. But as a creator, we must know, which category our work belongs to. All right, let us go to the next slide. So how long it is valid? Now, So far, whatever we have seen, patents 20 years. After that, it is public. Everybody can use it. Trademarks and geographical indications 20 years. Sorry, 10 years can be further renewed for another period of 10 years and so on, unlimited. But copyright is not unlimited. It is limited like patents, but the situation is little different. When it comes to the first 4 works, that is LDMA, it is lifetime of the author plus 60 years. That means as long as the author is alive, he will enjoy having the copyright. And once the author dies, 60 years from the death of the author. That is why we say lifetime. So this is a very unique situation, because an author could be alive for what? Once he creates a work, he might die immediately. In that case, you get only 60 years. But imagine an author creates the work today and he lives for another 70 years. Then the 70 years lifetime plus 60. So that is so the protection will change according to the life of the author. So this is a very unique thing. In copyright, this is not applicable to any other IPs. This is very unique, only to IP. And the other 2 works, that is 5th and 6th, cinematograph and sound recordings, them there is no lifetime of the author, for the simple reason. And again, the question, who owns the copyright in the song? I said producer. So cinematograph film is produced by a person known as producer, right? So that producer, now it is not about his lifetime. It is only up from the date of publishing the film. From that day, the producer will have 60 years of protection under that copyright. Once those years are over, that work falls into public domain, and anybody can use it for any purpose, even for commercial purposes. And there is one trivia I want to tell here. Earlier, this duration was 50 years, 50, right? And so Rabindranath Tagore, one of the greatest persons of our country, he wrote so many poems and short stories, etc. Right? So his works were about to fall into public domain at the end of 50 years. So he was about to complete 50 years. Not he in the sense, the work. The protection was 50 years old and about to get into public domain. And so in that instance, the law was changed and it was made to 60 for all, not only for Tagore, for all. So from that day onwards, it is 60 years. All right. So having studied the basics of copyright, let us now come to the most important part of this session, that is these regulations. Now why are these important to you? As you might have guessed, you might have already done your PhD, okay, that is okay. But for those who are into the process of doing PhD, or those who are into process of writing an article for any journal or any other work, okay, where either it is compulsory according to UGC rules or voluntary. So we all have to follow this UGC regulations. The actual name is so long: Promotion of Academic Integrity and Prevention of Plagiarism in Higher Education Institutions. So let us call them Anti-Plagiarism Regulations. So they came on July 31st, 2018. Right? So let us see what this regulation is and what are the things which we have to follow. Starting from the basic thing, plagiarism. How do you define plagiarism? What exactly is plagiarism? Of course, there are so many different kinds of plagiarism. We are not going to deal with those kinds. We will bother ourselves only with the meaning of plagiarism. In simple words, the practice of taking someone else's work or idea and passing them as one's own. So this is, even if you Google this word, you will get this definition. Someone else's work, you are passing it off as your own. It is someone else's work, right? Usually, because from where you have taken it. So you are deliberately, knowingly, you are committing plagiarism. Sometimes in a very rare situation, you are not even aware that your work has actually been done by somebody else, but still because you're not aware, you write it, and later you come to know that it already someone has written that the same thing. So you are unknowingly you are plagiarizing someone else's work. That is not as serious as the first one, right? But plagiarism is plagiarism at the end. You cannot get away with it. Not anymore. Why? We will see. So to whom these regulations are applicable, right? And there are 4 categories of people. SFRS. S is for students, F is faculty members, research scholars, researchers, and staff. Right? So of whom? Of higher educational institutions. Right? So all the higher education institutions in India have to follow this compulsorily. Right? So by that we mean usually 12 and above, like not 12, above 12. That comes under higher education, under the usual meaning. Alright, so let us now see what are the different things which these regulations expect from us, from everybody. Right? And one of the first things is that all the HEIs, that is higher education institutions, have to conduct awareness programs and trainings on such things. So what are you supposed to do in these things? Number 1, inculcate this habit among everyone about proper attribution, seeking permission, acknowledgement of the source. So for your work purposes, your research purposes, theory purposes, PhD purposes, it is impossible to write each word which is completely original. No, it is not possible. You have to refer to somebody else's work. You have to refer to some expert, right? You have to refer to, in our field, we have to refer to Supreme Court judges, High Court judges, their judgments. We have to quote different sections, different provisions of law, right? So it is not that everything must be original, but whatever you take, which is necessary for your work, you attribute those things to those people. I take it from Mr. A, I write it that so and so is from Mr. A, so and so is from Mr. B, etc. So proper attribution, one thing. Seeking permission wherever possible. Again, it is impossible to seek permission from each and everything. But wherever possible, wherever you think that, okay, this is an important part and this belongs to somebody, so can I ask? And many a times you will be surprised, those people would be more than happy to give you the permission because their names will be mentioned in your work. He will be, or he or she, they will be treated as experts under your work because you are referring to those people, right? But many times we hesitate in seeking permission with the fear that we may not get the permission, right? That should not be the case because you are doing it for, again, research and academic purposes. So there is no reason why somebody would not allow you to do so. You are not making money out of it. That is important here. And acknowledgement of the source. So you take anything, you acknowledge that this is from so and so source. So the first thing we all have to do, institutions, inculcate this habit among everyone. Second, sensitization and awareness programs about the same things every semester on responsible conduct of research. Right? What are the do's and don'ts of research, ethical research? What are the ethical things, unethical things? Right? You are researching anything, whatever you do, you are responsible for your work. So we should be able to take that responsibility, right? And so create such awareness, conduct such programs every semester. Then compulsory coursework module. So irrespective of the subject and the course, there must be some work module on academic integrity principles. Right now, the regulations, they are long, so you can find these principles in the regulation also. So for undergraduate as well as postgraduate, what are these principles? Teach these, communicate these principles to everybody else. Academic integrity. Then research and publication ethics for masters and research scholars. The same thing, but the purpose is different. The audience is different. The ethics in conducting research as well as publishing. Orientation and refresher courses for faculty and staff. So this faculty development program is kind of an orientation program. It is kind of a refresher course. So for those who know, it becomes refresher. You refresh your memory, your knowledge, more importantly. So every now and then, conduct orientation courses, refresher courses, teaching all these principles to everybody. In those 4 categories: students, faculty, researchers, and staff, to use plagiarism detection tools. Now, I do not know if your institution has a tool, but many universities, of course, all universities have such tools, all major big universities, and many private colleges which are doing really good, they have their own, they have detection tools, right? Now, when I was doing my master's in law in Symbiosis, Pune, so Symbiosis University, they have the tool. For example, let me show you this Turnitin. You might have heard these names. Urkund is used in India a lot by government universities. Authenticate is another. Turnitin is another. Okay, now all these are not available for free. They are subscription-based softwares, detection tools. So we had this Turnitin for our for LLB as well as LLM students in that college. So anything which we would publish as a part of our course. So for example, LLM postgraduate dissertation which we have. So we were given access to this software. So we were asked to upload our dissertation on this software, right? And there used to be a report generated, which I will show you in the next slide. So in that report, it is pretty much clear, okay, the level of percentage of plagiarism. And then our guide used to tell us, okay, this is according to Symbiosis standards, this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. If you fall into not acceptable category, you have to redo your work, you have to change your work so that you fall into acceptable category, right? So these regulations ask everybody to train our people to use these tools. Now, these tools are really costly, right? So when these regulations were published, the UGC said that we are going to provide free tools to the all state universities. And this was again, they said it soon after these regulations were published. But later, there is no word right now after that, whether they are going to provide or not. I don't know if they have indeed provided. If somebody know, that is, you might know. So these are only representative examples. There are so many such tools. On Google, if you search, there are so many free tools which do the work for you. But because they are free, they have a limitation. Their database is limited. Whereas these are paid, so the databases are huge, and there is a better that these are better to prevent plagiarism. Right? Now, this is a representative image of how this Turnitin software works. Okay, so when this is the data which you have uploaded on the software, on the tool, and right hand side you can see the percentage of plagiarism. Now here it is 90%. So this is a very highly plagiarized data. So taken from some internet website, that is why it shows. So 90% is what it is plagiarized right here. And here you can see different labels: 10, 8, 7, 2, 4, 2. What are those? It shows you that, for example, 1, wherever 1 is written, that data has been taken from this particular website. So canadiancrc.com, for example. So second is, it is a student paper as submitted to a particular university. So 16% of that is taken from this website. Then 15% from MySpace, again a student paper. Drugfair.com, SlideShare, a very common website where you get ready-made slides, PPTs, right? And medicinenet.com, etc. So out of this total paper, 28% has been taken from this source, and 16, 15, etc. This is just a representative image where similar report is generated, and then you get an opportunity. So this is before you submit, right? You have to check. Once you know that okay, your data is, you are plagiarizing someone else's data, you get a chance to redo this, to change it, and come to the acceptable percentage. What is an acceptable percentage? You will see in the coming slides. Right. So this is one example for everybody. Then continuing with this subtopic, awareness programs and trainings. Establish a well-equipped facility to detect plagiarism. So the institutions are encouraged to establish their own facility to detect such plagiarism in their campus or in between their staff and students and it's all other people, SFRS. Similarly, encourage them to register on international researchers registry systems. So these registry systems are nothing but similar to libraries which we have in hard format, normal libraries where a lot of books are kept. In the same way, these registry systems are online libraries, e-libraries, what we call, right? And these are open to all. So I will show you some examples in the next slide. There are many such registry systems which they are called as repositories, right? I just said like a library, repository. So some repositories are only for a particular field, whether it is engineering or medicine or law, etc. Some repositories are general where everything is included. So the regulations tell us that we should encourage everybody to register on such systems so that our work, once we do, we upload it there also after we submit, that is okay, and after our university and whoever owns it basically, right, we publish it so that it is available as a database, part of database. It helps in multiple ways. One, the basic thing how it helps is the other researchers come to know that so and so paper has already been written on so and so topic, so you don't have to do it again because you are just doing duplication, then you are not doing any original research. So whatever is done already, it should be accessible to all so that we come to know that this has already been done and now there are certain things which are not done which I will do, right? So that is how it helps in one way. Second thing, it helps these plagiarism detection tools to detect plagiarism. Because the data is available online, these tools, they automatically check on all these repositories, all these registry systems, and then they generate a report saying that okay, yours is so and so plagiarized. Okay, so that is how these registry systems are. So let me show you certain examples of such registries. First is researchregistry.com. It is only for medicine, compulsory for people who are into medicine. So World Medical Association, they have entered into an agreement known as Declaration of Helsinki 2013. Under that declaration, it has been made compulsory for those people. Also, all the medical journals and medical literature, right, is published, is deposited in researchregistry.com. Right. Similarly, orcid.org, that is Open Researcher Contributor ID, short ORCID, short for Open Researcher Contributor ID. It is general, it is not specific to about a one field, but it is used by journal publishers. Then VIAF, that is Virtual International Authority File. Again, journal, national libraries, national in the sense government, state libraries. Okay, and last example is ISNI, that is International Standard Name Identifier. Now, this is only for artists like performers, authors, composers, etc. So it is for the entertainment industry, ISNI. Again, now these are only representative examples. There are so many such registries, repositories, and so if you are into a particular field, so your college, your institution, whatever suits you, whichever is associated or with to whom you are associated, you could find such registry and register everybody. You can encourage everybody to register, or you can make compulsory for your staff to register on such registries. Okay, now that was the first point, awareness programs and trainings. Come to the second point, curbing plagiarism. How to curb, how to prevent, how to stop plagiarism. First point, implement appropriate plagiarism detection software. Again, very easy, right? Whether it is free or paid doesn't matter, but have some plagiarism detection tool, something. Even if it is free, doesn't matter. It will help you a lot, right? So implement such tools immediately and submit all your work, whether it is thesis for post-graduation students or sorry, for PhD people, dissertation for post-graduation people, or any publication, any article, anything where your students or even faculty members publish. Make it accessible to all. Make such detection softwares open to all the related people. So SFRS and anybody else who is associated with you. Make it accessible. Number C, take, now this is a thing which we all do, you know, every institution does. Take undertakings and certificates from the students that the work is plagiarism free. But this is of no use because it is just a certificate, right? It is simple project in a course. You take this certificate, right? Even for internal assignments, we take such certificates. But such certificates are of no use because you have no way to check whether it is original or plagiarized, right? So that is why you need detection tools. Simple undertaking certificates will not work. Develop a policy on plagiarism and place it on your website's homepage. Again, practically it is of not much use, but theoretically it is very important because unless you have a policy, you cannot implement it. Rather, if you want to implement something, you first need a policy, right? So now this is on the lines of, for example, anti-ragging. You know, make a policy to prevent ragging and place it on the website. So, and even as per according to NAC, there are so many requirements, right? You need to have so and so committees for either it is human rights or whether it is for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, ragging or against sexual harassment, etc. Different committees compulsorily for different purposes, and your policies must be disclosed at a conspicuous places, including the website. Same way, have a policy on plagiarism. Submit all the dissertations, this is compulsory, and thesis to InflibNet. Now I am sure many of you might be aware of this InflibNet. This is our Indian system, right? Show the Ganga e-repository. InflibNet is short for Information and Library Network Center. It is located in Gandhinagar, Gujarat, and it is Autonomous Inter-University Center of UGC. So it belongs to UGC, no doubt, but it is between multiple universities together having a common system. So having a common repository. So the previous examples we saw, they were foreign repositories. This is an Indian repository, which I think many of you also might know, inflibnet.ac.in. Right, so all the dissertations and theses must go compulsorily to InflibNet. Right, there is no option. Plus, create an own institutional repository. Right, so each institution having a one separate repository. So in future, any students, any faculty members who join your institution, for them it becomes easy. That what are things are already published by our institution, or what are all the different theses and dissertations already done by our institution or through our institution. So create a separate institutional repository. All right, coming to the next part in this curbing plagiarism. Detect, report, handle. First step is detect plagiarism. How to detect? By these detection tools. You cannot detect manually. Have these detection tools. Without tools, you cannot detect. Once you detect, second stage is report. To whom you report, we will see now. And then handle the situation, handle the problem. So there are two bodies which every institution should have, all higher education institutions. The first of them is DAIP, Departmental Academic Integrity Panel. These DAIPs, as you can guess, are for each and every department. Okay, so at the departmental level, right? So to this panel, DAIP, any member of academic community, not only an employee or staff, any person from academic community, even a third person, can file a complaint to this panel saying that a person from your institution has plagiarized my work. So file a complaint, report this to this panel, first step. Then the panel must investigate the matter and send the recommendations to the next panel, that is IAIP, which is short for Institutional Academic Integrity Panel. This panel is at the institutional level, so there will be only one panel in one institution, whereas multiple departments, multiple DAIPs, right? So DAIP, departmental panel, will report, or after investigating the matter, report to the institutional panel, send the recommendations to the institutional panel. Then institutional panel, like an appellate body, will hear it and decide the matter. Of course, they have to go to the head of institution. That is different thing. I will tell you that later. Apart from that, it can also take suo motu action. Suo motu is on its own, by itself. So if the institutional panel thinks that there is some suspicious work being published or already published, then without any complaint from anybody, it can on its own start investigation. That power is given to institutional panel, right? These two panels. Coming to this DAIP, now who all are part of this departmental panel? As I said, all departments must have one panel each. The head of the department will be the chairperson of this panel, right? And apart from chairperson, two members. One senior academician from outside of the department. So from the same institution, but a different department. So for example, if you have a maths department and a science department or arts department. So arts person will be in this maths department and maths person will be in the arts department. And as nominated by head of the institution. Second member, a person who is well versed with plagiarism tools. Now this person could be within your department or outside of department, doesn't matter. But he must be an expert. Usually the IT guy, right? The software guy, systems guy, or person who is looking at the computers and all those things in the institution, he can be a person well versed with such tools, can make this such person expert and appoint him as a second member. Their tenure is 2 years. Every 2 years the members must change. Quorum is 2 out of 3. So for each meetings, out of the 3 members, minimum 2 must be present. Right? Chairman and 1 member must be present. Now this departmental panel, after conducting an inquiry, investigation, make a report and submit that report along with the recommendations to the institutional panel within 45 days. So once the matter is reported, within 45 days, this entire investigation must be over and the panel must prepare a report and recommendations to send it to institutional panel. Okay. Now, then the matter comes to the institutional panel. Here again, because it is at the institutional level, only one panel. The chairperson, either pro vice chancellor or the dean or any senior academician, and 3 members. Again, one is senior academician other than the chairman. Then second member nominated by the institution from outside of institution. So a third party is a second member, and the third member is again a person with an expert in plagiarism detection tools. All these persons nominated by head of the institution. Okay. Again, the tenure here, instead of 2, unlike the previous, here it is 3 years. Quorum is 3 out of 4. Now what will happen later? The chairpersons of these 2 panels cannot be same. So you must have a separate chairperson for the departmental panels and the institutional panel. You cannot have the same person. Now, just like the departmental panel has 45 days, in the same way, the institutional panel has again 45 days to report to the head of institution. Right? So departmental panel to institutional panel to the head within 45 days. Right? Now, of course, we have checked everything, we have reported everything, but what are the different levels? In other words, what is an accepted level of plagiarism and what is not? Very important chart, very important point for everybody. Now, when you have that detection software, right, it will throw up percentages as we have seen. If it is up to 90%, then you are at level 0. You are safe zone. You are into safe zone. Nothing, the safest zone is level 0. Then level 1 is 10% to 40% plagiarism. Level 2, 40 to 60. And level 3, above 60. And that is red zone, very, very serious. No one should be in that zone. In fact, level 2 is the maximum you can go, that is also risky, but okay. Level 3 is, you don't want it. So let us see what are the penalties for all these different levels. So level 0 is up to 10, 1 is 10 to 40%, level 2, 40 to 60, level 3, above 60. These are the different levels. And now let us see the penalties for these different levels. First, let us talk about only thesis and dissertations. Okay, so PhD people, research scholars, and postgraduate students, that is dissertations. If you fall into the first category, that is level 0, no penalty at all. Because as I said, it is impossible to have a work which is 100% original. It is impossible. There will be certain similarities. So up to 10%, fine, no penalties at all. Then if you fall into level 1, you have to submit a revised script within a maximum period of 6 months. In other words, your guide, now if we are doing this, our guide, our supervisor must ask us to submit a revised script. Because you cannot go ahead, because your level should fall below 10. You cannot proceed with 10%, 10 to 40. But again, this is not a big penalty. The only thing is revise the script and submit it again. If you are into level 2, you will be debarred from submitting a revised script for 1 year. So for 1 year, you cannot complete the work, that course, whatever you are doing, because you are not eligible to submit your thesis or dissertation. So 1 year debarment. And unfortunately, if anybody is level 3, then the registration of program to be cancelled. And this is, as I said, nobody would want to be in level 3, right? It's very serious repercussions. So your entire registration must get cancelled. Whatever course you are doing, whatever thing you are doing will be cancelled. You have to again start from first. And that's very risky, right? What about repeated plagiarism? If you are already found guilty of, say, level 1, right? Level 0 is not guilty. Level 1, 2 and 3. So if you are already guilty of level 1 and subsequently you are again guilty of either of the levels 1, 2 or 3, then one level higher than the previous level. So for example, as I said, first you were found guilty of level 1, you were given 6 months time to give a revised script. Then you submit another script which is again level 1 guilty. In that case, you will not get another 6 months to revise. You will be debarred for 1 year. That is your debarred from submitting the paper. So one level higher punishment. If level 2, then 1 year higher, level 3, and so on. Again, if you are already level 3, there is no question of repeated plagiarism because you are already out of the course. And what if the degree is already given? So what if you have already got the PhD degree certificate and then somebody finds out that it was plagiarized? There were such cases. Okay, you can Google. So if the degree is already given, then degree to be put in abeyance, that is hanging, pending, suspend that degree for a period as recommended by the institutional panel and as approved by the head of institution. Right, so degree will be put in abeyance, that is degree will be suspended for a particular period as decided by the head of institution. So even if you have got the PhD degree and somebody unfortunately is found guilty of any of these offenses, then your PhD degree will be put on hold. Now coming to the second category, academic and research publication. So a normal publication, normal article, not thesis and dissertation. Right? Then what are the penalties? So here, imagine you are already working as a faculty member. You have done your PhD, everything, and then by the by, you usually say every year you submit one research paper to some journal, magazine, etc. In that case, what are the penalties? Let us see. Again, level 0, no penalty. Level 1, you have to withdraw the manuscript. That means you will not be allowed to go ahead. If you are guilty of level 1, you have to redo the entire manuscript, submit it afresh. Guilty of level 2, 40 to 60%. One thing, first is withdraw the manuscript. Second, lose one annual increment. Right, very, very serious repercussion. Lose one annual increment and not allowed to supervise any master's or MPhil or PhD student or scholar for 2 years. So you'll be debarred from being a guide for 2 years. Plus you will lose one annual increment. Right? So very serious repercussions, as you can see. Then come to level 3. Again, withdraw manuscript. Now instead of 1, you will lose 2 annual increments and will be debarred for a period of 3 years instead of 2 years. Okay, so you cannot become a guide, you cannot supervise any of these people for this period of time if you are found guilty of level 3. And this could be afterwards also, right? When you have already submitted, you have already finished, you got the certificate, but then the university uses this tool because at the time of doing your PhD there wouldn't have been any tools. So no way to see whether it is plagiarized or not. Subsequently, if it is found, you can still be guilty of this, and you have to face these consequences. Okay. Again, repeated plagiarism, suspension or termination by the head of institution if level 3 is repeated. So if you do level 3 offense another time, you can be terminated from your post, you can be suspended from your post as decided by the head of the institution. In many cases, the heads of institutions themselves have been guilty of this. In many big universities, reputed universities, you can Google it. Okay, so that was the topic where we covered copyright as well as these UGC regulations. I hope you have understood this, and if you have any questions, any suggestions, you can feel free to ask me. Yes, sir. Welcome. Yes. Copyright is the right which you get for your work, and license is the permission which you give to somebody else to use your work. So license is the permission. So if anybody, if you give this right to somebody else, then you have to give it through licensing. So you license your copyright to somebody else, so that other person has a permission to use that particular work. That is license, permission. Yeah.
So there are questions in the chat box, sir.
Okay. Let me see.
From Ramachandran Alagaya, sir, is there any loophole in plagiarism tools or software?
Loophole in the plagiarism tool. Now, there cannot be a thumb rule on this because each tool has been prepared by different people, whether it is a company or any institution. So it will depend on how good the tool is. As I said, free tools are not that reliable. Of course, useful but not reliable. But usually paid, well reputed, which for example Urkund or Turnitin, Authenticate, they are well reputed tools. So I don't think there will be loopholes in such tools.
Okay, sir. So next question. What are the inclusions and exclusions from the contents for plagiarism?
Inclusions and exclusions. I don't know if I understand the question correctly, but for example, now I just said you refer to somebody else's work, in your work. So you have to use a part of somebody else's work, or maybe a paragraph or any short article. Now this is obviously you have referred it, so you are copying it exactly, but you do not want to you do not want that to come up in the report. So each tool is designed in such a way that there are these, for example, quotation marks or the indentation. So when you use double quotations, when you start and end double quotations, then that entire part will not be calculated in the report, because the tool will come to know that you have already referred this from some other work. So it will not show that in the report. Similarly, indentation. So your margin is this, and if you want to quote something, you indent and you make an indentation. You press a tab, you go ahead, and then you mention something. So there are such things for each tool. It's designed in that way, so that those things will not be covered in your report. I think that is what I understand from the question.
Okay, so next question, sir. When we write thesis, plagiarism comes to my paper which was published. So how to avoid that?
So once you know, once the report is generated, you come to know that the level of plagiarism which your work has been accused of. So, and as I have shown you in that image, it will exactly show you that paragraph, that words, that sentence, which is copied from something else. So you can actually work upon that, those things, redo the language, change the language, or change that entire thing, add a different idea at a different point, or tell it in a different way. Put your own thoughts in those lines and make it your original somehow. Otherwise, if you just keep it like that, it will be again detected in the report.
Okay, sir. Sir, next question. Can we use photographs from internet for online classes?
Yes. Now, education purposes is one of the exceptions under copyright law, right? So when you are teaching it to the students, you can use anything, absolutely. You will not be held guilty of plagiarism, because education is one of the exceptions under copyright law. But again, one thing, take those online images, but if you are presenting it, put a line, put the website name at the bottom to show that this is from where we have taken the image from. So that we can do.
Okay, sir. If the paper is an extension of a previous paper, can we quote and get exemption?
Sorry, I did not get the question.
Sir, one second, sir. If the paper is an extension of a previous paper, can we quote and get exemption?
The paper is an extension of a previous paper. Yes, of course, because your current paper is linked to your previous paper, if I'm not wrong. That is what you're asking. So in that case, exemption is not for your current paper, everything, because ultimately you are writing another paper. Although it could be an extension, you are adding certain new things. You are extending it, right? So those new things only will be checked again, not the entire thing. So whatever new things you add, that will be checked.
Okay, sir. So next question. Soft copy of materials which are made by screenshot may not be read by plagiarism software. Is it true?
Soft copies of materials which are made by screenshots. I'm not aware if the tools do not detect such screenshots. Now I don't know if in your work you will obviously type it, right? You have when you upload on the detection tool, it is a Word file which you have to upload. You don't have to upload screenshots or PDFs because some tools may not be able to detect it. So the best thing is if you are at the receiving end, you have to insist for a Word file so that all the words are read by the tool and then the actual plagiarism is detected.
Okay, sir. So that's all about the questions from chat boxes.
Okay.
Participants, any more questions?
Sir, the internet is the best place, sir. Okay. If you want specific countries, you can search the copyright law and that country's name, which then Google will lead you to the government websites, authenticated websites of those countries. And then you can find it, sir. There is no one common database where you can find everything. Mm-hmm. No. One thing, this is a very important question because IP laws are domestic in nature. They are territorial in nature. So copyright law of India will only protect your copyright in India. If you want to protect your work in other countries, you have to get copyright in those countries also. So there is no such concept as universal copyright or universal patent or universal trademark, etc. All IP laws are domestic and territorial in nature. So that is a very important question.
So may I ask a question, sir?
Yes.
So my students are doing research under my guidance. Actually, after completing some around 5 or 6 papers published in peer-reviewed journal only, they started to type their thesis. When they type the thesis is completely depends on the papers which has been published earlier. They published 5 papers. On the basis of 5 papers only, they are writing the thesis. In that 5 papers, we are giving so many definitions, everything have been given in that paper. The same thing we want to write it in our thesis. Because of the paper is already published, when my thesis is go for the plagiarism, it will say plagiarism to my paper only. Then how to avoid that? That question will ask.
Yes. So no, this is also a good question. Now there are different ways to answer this. One way is it is your paper, right? You have written it, but you have published in some other journal. Now, when you publish your paper in a journal, say journal ABC, journal ABC gets rights over that paper. This is a common practice. Those journals, those publications, they have right over those. Now, you are writing a thesis for some other university or some other purpose. So you are using, although it is your own paper, your own knowledge, but that copyright over that thing belongs to, or the rights over that paper belong to that particular journal. And that is why it becomes a plagiarism. And this is what we call self-plagiarism. This is another category. So, yes, that is a very valid question, but you cannot do anything about it, although it is your own data. So the best advice here is, if you plan to write a thesis on something, it is better if you do it at the same time, or think twice before submitting papers everywhere in order to do that thesis. This is one thing. Second, now another way to answer this is, now your university, now wherever you are submitting the thesis, okay, and your guide, your PhD guide, he or she should be made aware of this particular thing, that this is my paper which I've published in a journal, and my plagiarism report is referring to the same thing, not any other thing. Now this is now at the discretion of the guide and the university who awards PhD to exclude those things, because that software will not know whether you have written it or not. But the person behind, that is your guide or the university who are in charge, they will know this, that okay, this is your thesis and the paper is also belongs to you. So they can exclude that, even though the report shows say 30% or 40% plagiarized, but they know that this is the same paper, so they can manually override it and give you the degree. There is no problem with that.
They say by the university then, that is the case.
Sorry, sir, couldn't get.
University will decide then.
Yes, obviously, of course, the guide and the university, they will decide whether what is the correct thing to do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, welcome, sir.